Coming up on the Roundup today, two big city mayors call for the reinstatement of a missing transport link. An acting mayor appointed as a country mayor deals with health challenges. Another council drops the Christian prayer from its meetings. A bitter housing dispute between a council and the state government in Sydney's east. Cessnock, the latest council to explore a special rate variation. A council CEO's interstate travel under scrutiny, a new Lord Mayor for Darwin, and arrests over an alleged housing fraud at a London council. Hello, I'm Cr Adam, back with more news from and about councils from across Australia and beyond. It's Monday the 8th of September. And also today, protecting urban gardens and managing the explosion of share bikes on Sydney's streets. City of Sydney Councillor Adam Worling joins me for a chat on Roundup Extra later in the podcast, which is brought to you by the Victorian Local Governance Association, the national broadcaster on all things local government. Thanks for joining me for a brand new week of the Roundup. Mayors from two of Victoria's fastest growing regions are calling for improved public transport connections between Wyndham and Greater Geelong. It's been a decade since direct train services between Werribee and Geelong were discontinued with the opening of Regional Rail Link in 2015, severing a connection that had existed for more than 150 years. Greater Geelong Mayor Stretch Contell told the Star Weekly that the removal of the service has created a significant gap in the network, adding at least 25 minutes to commute times and making Geelong less attractive as an employment option for Wyndham residents. Wyndham's Mayor Mia Shaw echoed those concerns, noting that better connections would help residents access jobs and services in Geelong without relying on cars. She highlighted that for some residents in Point Cook, the quickest route to Geelong involves travelling into Melbourne's inner suburbs first. Despite the calls, the state government currently has no plans to redirect Geelong line trains via Werribee due to the number of metropolitan train services on the Werribee corridor. Horsham Rural City Council has appointed Councillor Brian Klaus as acting mayor as incumbent Mayor Ian Ross deals with health issues. The appointment was made at an additional council meeting held last Thursday. Councillor Klaus will chair meetings, attend public events and represent the council in official matters when Councillor Ross is unavailable. Wimmera News reported that Councillor Ross would know more about his situation after a biopsy late this week. Moyne Shire Council is working on a replacement for a Christian prayer at its council meetings after a rescission motion failed to overturn a decision made by the council in July. The rescission motion from Councillor Jim Dukas, which sought to put the issue to community consultation, was lost by 4 votes to 2. Mayor Karen Foster told me that while the issue has been divisive, it was about being inclusive.
You know, when we sit around the council table and we recite a Christian prayer, we may not mean to exclude, but that's the sense that we that's the feedback we're getting from members in our community that it's in 2025 we need to really move forward and consider the fact that we've got a lot more diverse communities now than we'd had before.
Councillor Foster said a new non-denominational statement of values would be brought to a future council meeting for consideration. Moorabool Shire Council has formally opposed the proposed Western Renewables Link overhead transmission line project through a submission to the Environment Effects Statement. It has expressed concerns about landscape scarring and various negative impacts, including bushfire, social, agricultural and environmental impacts. The next step in the process will be a public hearing starting in October, where the council will be represented by a legal team and independent experts to advocate against the current project design. It appears a decision on who the next CEO of Cardinia Shire Council will be is getting closer. The council has scheduled an additional meeting tonight to consider a confidential personnel matter. Former CEO Carol Jeffs resigned her position in April this year, and Peter Benazic has been holding down the role on an interim basis since late May. Whitehorse City Council has reversed its 2023 decision to explore external management options for Aqualink facilities, instead confirming its commitment to in-house management. It says the reversal is due to substantial operational improvements made over the past 2 years, including the completion of a learn-to-swim procurement process, a new enterprise agreement, enhanced membership experiences, and better financial performance. Meanwhile, doctors are urging Banyule Council to reverse its decision to close the Olympic Leisure Centre pool in West Heidelberg, according to ABC News. They're warning of serious health consequences for the community as the pool serves as a vital exercise space for many disadvantaged residents. The council says it's losing $1 million annually and experiencing declining attendance at the facility. An expanded Western Renewable Energy Zone area outlined in the Victorian Transmission Plan has sparked outrage among Yarriambiack councillors due to the significant expansion of its footprint without prior consultation. Mayor Kylie Zanker said community feedback will be sought during the REZ declaration process, providing an opportunity to adjust boundaries, but concerns remain about the lack of clarity about gigawatt capacity. Rounding up more council news in brief, Brimbank is getting its first community battery to be built in Sunshine West. It will store excess solar energy during the day and redistribute it during peak periods. It'll be decorated with community-created artwork and is expected to be completed by December. Moonee Valley City Council will hold a competition to decide who will design the next playground in Queen's Park West. It'll work with design competition experts to attract applications, and a judging panel will pick a winner from a shortlist. The playground is due for renewal in 2026-27. And the Kyneton Town Hall will be illuminated in blue tonight in honour of 2 police officers who lost their lives at Porpunka recently. Macedon Ranges Shire Mayor Dom Bonanno emphasised the heroism and dedication of police officers who serve as community pillars. It's the Local Government News Roundup for Monday, the 8th of September. More news for you in a moment, but first a message from the Victorian Local Governance Association. As part of the VLGA's ongoing commitment to support councillors on their journey to be successful community representatives, the Victorian Councillor Census is back again this year. All councillors in Victoria will be emailed the census on the 6th of October, and you'll have until the end of the month to complete it. The census is in its second year, capturing and tracking councillor demographics, attitudes and the key challenges to local governance over time. You don't need to be a member of the VLGA to participate, and at no stage will the VLGA have access to an individual's responses. The findings of the census will be used to inform, influence and lead conversations across local government and with other tiers of government. It's your chance to have your voice heard as a councillor. All responses to the census will be fully confidential. To New South Wales now, and a bitter dispute is escalating over the Minns government's ambitious housing development plan for Wallara Council in Sydney's east. The state government aims to create 10,000 new homes and reopen a long-abandoned train station, but the council's deputy mayor Sean Carmichael has labelled the plan as old-fashioned toxic masculinity, claiming the housing crisis won't be solved through what he calls random and peculiar acts. The Sydney Morning Herald reported that the council has taken unprecedented steps in its opposition campaign, including distributing anti-development pamphlets with rates notices and voting unanimously to explore legal challenges against the proposal. Meanwhile, Planning Minister Paul Scully has fired back, suggesting opponents of increased housing density are creating suburbs without grandchildren and fostering systemic resistance to expanding housing options. Cessnock City Council has engaged Professor Joseph Drew, a leading local government finance expert, to guide its financial sustainability efforts and support a potential application to IPART for a special rate variation. A team of international scholars will provide independent expertise to address budget challenges caused by factors such as asset growth, cost shifting and rate caps imposed by the state government. Community consultation sessions are planned for November. Narrabri Shire Council will advocate for maintaining adequate resources at rural fire stations amid Fire and Rescue New South Wales facing challenges in rural areas, with particular concern about potential downgrades that could affect smaller communities. The Narrabri Courier reported that although no local stations are currently at risk, the council will investigate opportunities to support recruitment efforts and seek clarification on how future changes might impact stations within the Narrabri area. And Albury City will host over 200 delegates from across New South Wales at the Local Government New South Wales Water Management Conference this week, focusing on critical water security issues, technical innovations and best practice in water management. The conference brings together councillors, water utility managers, industry professionals and policymakers to tackle pressing challenges like rural water security while showcasing Albury's leadership in water management. Rounding up more New South Wales Council news, Blacktown City Council has released a draft development control plan to transform the southern part of Blacktown City Centre into a vibrant community hub. The plan is open for public consultation and aims to accommodate the city's growing population while creating better services, spaces and opportunities. The cities of Newcastle, Lake Macquarie and Maitland have launched a Solar Neighbourhoods program to make renewable energy more accessible and affordable. The initiative provides quality solar, batteries and EV chargers through a program partner, offering exclusive discounts and payment options to help households save up to 90% on typical electricity bills. And the Joe Ryder campaign is returning to the Tweed, inviting motorcyclists to wear bright yellow vests to promote road safety and participate in a community spotting competition. The initiative addresses the concerning statistic that motorcyclists account for 48% of road fatalities in the Tweed. In Queensland, the CEO of Gold Coast Council, Tim Baker, has defended his $6,000 expenses for Melbourne's sporting events, including an AFL match and the Australian Open, according to the Gold Coast Bulletin. A spokesperson said the trips were for legitimate business purposes involving meetings with Optus and AFL executives. The council is reportedly focused on reducing expenses for staff travel, estimated at an average $300,000 every 6 months, by limiting the number of officers attending conferences. Sunshine Coast Mayor Rosanna Natoli has called on community members to suggest immediate solutions to the region's growing homelessness crisis. That's according to the Sunshine Coast News. She says no idea is too far out of the box as homeless numbers double in areas like Nambour. Officials are working on long-term housing solutions while also addressing safety concerns expressed by residents who say they feel unsafe in public spaces where rough sleepers have congregated. Ipswich City Council has unanimously voted to negotiate sponsorship support for the Supercars event at Queensland Raceway, recognising its significant economic benefits of approximately $8 million and over 20,000 visitor nights. The council aims to secure Ipswich as a venue for the 2026 Supercars Championship calendar while supporting Queensland Raceway's new owner, Tony Quinn, who's invested millions in upgrading the facility. A report in the Cotton and Grains Outlook has looked at the innovative solutions that regional and remote Queensland councils are using to attract staff. Barcaldine Regional Council has turned to strategies including highway billboards and investigating how to make bricks from local soil to build affordable staff housing. Other councils like Maranoa are offering incentives such as increased leave, 9-day fortnights and superannuation contributions, while addressing housing and childcare barriers through initiatives like childcare study bursaries. In Tasmania, the city of Launceston is launching its inaugural Street Art Festival in March next year, inviting Australian-based artists to transform the CBD with murals that celebrate the city's character. The festival aligns with the council's cultural strategies and will feature installations at high-visibility locations throughout the city centre. Applications are due by the 1st of October. Huon Valley Council says it successfully advocated at the National General Assembly this year for a healthcare reform proposal aimed at developing a skills and capability framework. The framework would allow nurse practitioners, paramedics and pharmacists to bill Medicare under a new funding model. The idea seeks to address health workforce shortages and improve access to healthcare in regional and remote areas by expanding the range of Medicare-eligible services at community health centres. The $52 million Summit Aquatic and Leisure Centre in Mount Barker, South Australia has officially opened, offering comprehensive facilities including pools, fitness areas and inclusive accessibility features. Co-funded across all levels of government, the centre represents a significant investment in community health and well-being, with sustainability features that make it one of the most environmentally advanced aquatic centres in regional Australia. A ceremony will be held at the Port Lincoln War Memorial in Ayr Park this morning to plant a fig tree of Tobruk, a descendant of the original fig tree that provided shelter to Australian troops during the siege of Tobruk in World War II. The planting continues a national tradition of creating living memorials to honour the legacy of the resilient Australian soldiers. Port Lincoln Mayor Diana Mislov said the city is privileged to host the ceremony, with unveiling of a commemorative plaque to follow later in the year. And the results are in the Northern Territory, and there's been a changing of the guard in local government, as former politician Peter Stiles has been elected as Darwin's new Lord Mayor, defeating incumbent Cr Vatskalis after 8 years in office. The NT News reported that the results were officially declared by the NT Electoral Commission early on Saturday morning, following a contentious election period that involved police investigations into allegations of fake how-to-vote cards. In his farewell comments, outgoing Mayor Vatskalis expressed pride in his tenure, particularly highlighting his leadership during Cyclone Marcus and the COVID-19 pandemic. Meanwhile, in Alice Springs, NT Greens endorsed candidate Asta Hill has made history by winning the mayoral race against long-time councillor Eli Melky. Ms Hill, a young mother, stated that her victory represents hope for the future of Alice Springs. Palmerston remains the only major locality to retain its incumbent mayor, with Athena Pascoe-Bell securing another term. Let's round up more council news in brief. A 7-storey development featuring 18 service departments in Subiaco has been unanimously approved by a development assessment panel, bypassing council scrutiny, according to Perth Now. The $6.5 million project aims to boost tourism appeal in Subiaco by providing short-term accommodation near key transport links and services. But Mayor David McMullen has expressed concerns about the erosion of local government input in development decisions. Sunshine Coast Council will install 2 new fishways on Petrie Creek in Nambour, allowing native fish like long-finned eels and Australian bass to bypass weirs and access critical breeding habitats. And the Barossa Council and the state government's jointly funded Barossa Park will host AFL Gather Round matches again next year following its successful debut. The first AFL matches at Barossa Park generated $4.87 million in direct expenditure for the region, demonstrating the $45.7 million facility's economic impact. Stay with us after the Global Report for a special edition of Roundup Extra. I'm joined today by Cr Adam Worling from the City of Sydney. But first, let's head to the UK, where Thanet District Council has reversed its controversial decision to implement a public spaces protection order that would have made swearing a finable offence. BBC News reported that the reversal follows legal correspondence from the Free Speech Union. Council leader Rick Everett stated that the council had decided to avoid costly and protracted legal disputes and would review the order before consulting residents and stakeholders on potential amendments. 2 individuals have been arrested in connection with suspected housing fraud at Barking and Dagenham Council. The BBC reports that police have been investigating the allocation of hundreds of council properties where prospective tenants allegedly paid finder's fees and inflated rents to fraudsters. The investigation spans from November 2020 to December last year. Potential victims are being encouraged to come forward and complete a questionnaire to assist with the inquiry. The Labor leader of Peterborough Council, Dennis Jones, has been suspended from the party and has since resigned after a messaging controversy. The councillor referred to grooming gang victims as poor white trash from Rotherham in a message to another councillor, which was later shared on social media. While Mr Jones has apologised for his inappropriate language, a formal complaint has been filed with the council and is under consideration, according to BBC News. In the US, a fraudster stole $1.5 million from the city of Baltimore by impersonating a vendor and tricking city employees into changing bank account details for payments. The city recovered one payment of $721,000, but has not been able to retrieve the other $803,000 payment, according to securityaffairs.com. The incident has highlighted critical weaknesses in the city's verification processes, despite having experienced similar fraud incidents since 2019. The Mayor of the City of London, not the one in the UK but the one in the US state of Kentucky, has been removed from office by the City Council on 3 of 12 charges of misconduct. The Kentucky Lantern reported on a contentious hearing which was marked by strong public support for the ousted Mayor, Randall Weddle. He's accused of refusing to publish an enacted ordinance and then delaying its timely publication, not filling vacancies on the city's Ethics Commission in a timely manner, and signing a $5 million mortgage without council approval. He says he plans to challenge the decision in court and has vowed to run for re-election next year, while the council has appointed a local artist, Tracy Handley, as the new mayor. A disturbing case of political intimidation has emerged in the municipality of Clarington, Ontario, in Canada, where a local councillor is facing serious allegations after allegedly leaving a death threat on a retired police officer's voicemail. Tom Dingwall, a former homicide detective who is considering a run for mayor in next year's municipal election, claims that Councillor Karina Trail left a 39-second message threatening to kill him and sexually assault his wife if he doesn't stay out of the upcoming race. CTV News reported that Dingwall has reported the incident to police, who are now investigating. Councillor Trail has described it as an unfortunate circumstance and declined further comment while the matter is being resolved. And in New Zealand, Auckland Council is taking over most transport responsibilities from Auckland Transport through a new bill that will reduce Auckland Transport's powers to focus solely on public transport services. The changes, announced by government ministers and Auckland Mayor Wayne Brown, will make elected officials directly accountable for transport decisions and give local boards new powers over local roads. Stuff reported that implementation of the changes is expected by September next year. And now time for a new edition of Roundup Extra. As the City of Sydney faces dual challenges of preserving green spaces and managing an explosion of share bikes, Councillor Adam Worling has emerged as a passionate advocate for urban sustainability. Last month, the council supported two motions brought forward by Councillor Worling looking to protect urban gardens and to introduce bike parking demarcation. I spoke with Councillor Worling about his vision for balancing Sydney's green footprint with the changing transportation landscape. Councillor Worling, good to have you on the Roundup.
I'm quite honoured to have been asked to be on the show. Thank you very much.
I know you're very passionate about sustainability, and I wanted to talk to you about your recent motion that we should note was passed unanimously by the council about protecting urban gardens. Can you tell me about what specific issues or observations have prompted you to bring this issue forward?
Yeah. Thank you very much for asking. Look, the city, the City of Sydney, we're really fortunate. We're greening a lot of our footpaths, which is fantastic. We're widening our footpaths because we're trying to make it as pedestrian friendly as possible. But these gardens, I mean, they're incredible. But when I first joined council, which is about 2 years ago, residents put something on Facebook saying, Macleay Street, which is an iconic street in Sydney, in Potts Point, they just said, it's all been renovated, it's beautifully paved, but all the gardens have been ruined. Being in the PR business that I used to be, I just immediately reached out. I saw a problem. We needed to find a solution. And when I went and met them, I mean, yes, here was this beautifully paved area, very pedestrian friendly, but all the gardens have been ruined because people were literally taking a shortcut and walking either straight through the gardens and not actually respecting them. So it was one of those things where we should have gardens that are sustainable. We shouldn't have to keep replanting them because people tread on them. So I had a meeting with the Lord Mayor. I had a meeting with city staff. They, agreed that the best course of action was to actually put some simple fencing around these gardens and replant them. And I can happily say today, going along Macleay Street, that we have got these wonderful, robust, vibrant gardens all up and down the street that have actually, there's no chance of them being ruined. I wanted to bring this notice of motion just to put it on record that we should be looking at all of our high pedestrian areas. And not all of our areas, some of our areas just don't need it. But if we are encouraging people to be active and walk in our city, then I think we should also look at protecting our gardens at the same time.
Yeah, and you talk about people cutting through, I guess, taking shortcuts. They see the spot where they want to be.
Yes.
This is this concept that you talk about, I think, of desire lines. Is that right?
I love that terminology. Literally, people will go, I need to get straight over there. I'm not going to walk around because it'll take an extra 15 seconds.
Yeah.
I'm just going to walk straight through. Sometimes pedestrians will create a desire line, and in those situations, the city sometimes goes back and we'll put stepping stones in. But also, this is the other thing I found out, it's not that simple. You then have to work with the Department of Transport. Sorry, Department of Transport, that was an old terminology. Transport for New South Wales, because what you don't want is to encourage people to walk across the street in an area that could be dangerous with car traffic.
Yes,
so,
yeah,
the idea is to channel people around the right way. And also then I found out there's issues with, putting some fencing up, because if people are seen to get out of Ubers in a particular spot, if they're crossing the road very quickly and all of a sudden there's a fence stopping them, they're getting caught on the road.
Yeah.
So there's many aspects to it that it's never a simple solution.
No, nothing's ever as simple as it might first appear.
No.
There's complexities. As you were talking, I was remembering one of my very earliest sitting around the table with councillors in my career. So we're going back, a couple of decades or more. A very experienced councillor advising officers who just put in a park or something, saying, don't put any paths in. Wait until you see where people walk and where they make the pathway, and then put the footpath in. That's the concept of desire lines, I guess, in action, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those ones. Is it the chicken or the egg?
Yeah.
Do you design it and then adjust it, or do you hope that pedestrians have got it right and then you design around it? But then so sometimes it's a behavioural change thing. And look, I would really want to stress that I'm not saying that this is a problem right across the city. It's just in, like I said, in key high traffic areas. Macleay Street was a great example. It's one of the most densely populated parts of Sydney, and there are a lot of people walking those footpaths every single day.
What about the issue of the fencing? Some people, I imagine, will think more fences, they're barriers, they'll create visual barriers. We don't need them. How do you respond to those concerns?
Yeah, look, number one, these fences are low. They're low enough they're high enough that they're stopping people from walking into them, but they're low enough that they're not obstructing views, that's for sure. Look, there's definitely some people who are very pro-pedestrianisation, and they think that there shouldn't be any form of fencing. But in an ideal world, I wouldn't want any fencing either if everybody walked around a garden rather than walked through the garden.
Did the right thing.
Yeah.
What about other approaches? Can you see a time where technology perhaps might give us some other sort of innovative ways to deal with this issue rather than putting up physical barriers?
That's a really good point, and I hadn't thought about it. And I'm sure with the rate, the speed that technology is moving at, there's most probably going to be something.
Yeah. Something to keep an eye on. And the community education side of this, the need for awareness and engagement. Have you talked about how that might be an element to this as well?
Look, that'd be something the city needs to, I certainly can't tell the city what to do. I can only suggest that they look into it, investigate. I've learned that very early on in my career here.
Yeah. But I guess what I'm getting at is the message that you're trying to get out there. If more people understood it and that level of awareness was higher, you might get a change of behaviour that way.
Yes, but then you'll also have people who are standing outside a pub who've had too many drinks, and sensibility sometimes goes out the window.
Yeah, very true. All right, let's move on to the other issue, which is around bike parking and the explosion in share bikes, and councils are grappling with how best to deal with this situation. And again, it's a complex one. What was the particular issue you're looking to deal with this demarcation idea?
Okay, look, this one's a simple one, and I chair the Local Pedestrian Cycling and Traffic Calming Committee, which in most councils is called the Traffic Committee.
Yeah.
But we're very much about prioritising pedestrians and cycling, and traffic should be calmed in our city. Look, you're right. Shared bikes, in the last 12 months in the city of Sydney, we've had 1.96 million rides in 12 months. I mean, it's a very, very popular form of transport. we've just shy of 30 kilometres of dedicated bike lanes in the city, plus then there's shared spaces as well. So there's no doubt about it. Cycling is here to stay. And that's a great thing. What we're now doing is we're working with the shared bike companies, the three majors, and we're working with them, and we have about 120, 130 designated places on footpaths. So, based on the geo aspect of the app, they have to park their bikes within those areas. But that's not right across the city. We're getting there. Right. What we're now doing is working with Transport for New South Wales to take up sections on the road that you've never been able to park there before. You haven't been able to stop there. They're close to intersections. So what we're looking to do, we've got 16 of them to date, and so they're in-road bike parking areas for shared bikes. And there was a great. The reason why I started thinking about this one was there was a Facebook post where we tend to get a lot of our information from community. Yeah. And there was one in Potts Point, and there was a concrete barrier at either side, and there was a signpost that says shared bike parking here. And literally there was 12 bikes parked on the footpath and none on the road part. So I think people thought, we park on the footpath and we have to park here. What they didn't realize is let's park them on the road. So that's a simple one. I'm just saying, if we're going to, we know that's where you're meant to park. The rider may not know this just yet. So what I'm asking for is, a bike stencil on the road to make it really clear that this is where you're parking. I've also had one in Millers Point where people kept parking their motorbikes in that section. Right. But the thing is, again, this is a behavioural change. And until we roll out 100, 120 of these across the LGA, it's going to take a little while for people to understand exactly where to leave their bikes.
Yeah. So, some councils have taken the view that share bikes schemes are just too problematic and they ban them while still allowing privately owned share bikes. What do you think is the role of the share bike companies here in that behavioural change issue you've just identified? Can they be doing more?
I think anyone can be doing more at any time on any subject. But the thing is, New South Wales government, our Lord Mayor has been advocating for 8 years now for the New South Wales government to regulate shared bikes, because at the moment councils are we're the punching bag, because everyone thinks that we're the ones that are not policing it, but we have no regulations, we have no rules to guide by. So people can leave their bike wherever they want. Common sense should be involved. And literally, as I was walking the dog this morning, one of the shared bike companies had lined up 10 bikes on the footpath. Okay, great. But they'd put them literally in the middle of the footpath. So I stopped for a few minutes and literally just moved each one of them about a metre forward. So they were next to the curb. So yes, the shared bike companies could be doing it better in certain areas. But we have experienced that the three major companies are open to working with us because it's their brand as well. If their bikes are heavily branded, and if they're scattered all over the place, or it doesn't reflect well on them.
Yeah, but I understand there's e-mobility regulations being developed currently, and you'd like to see it enshrined in there that these companies do make some sort of a contribution towards the costs that councils like the City of Sydney are incurring in this space.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're hopeful that New South Wales government is coming through with at least regulating it and some strong guidelines as to how people should use these bikes. And I think there's a lot of confusion because people travel overseas and they see all the parking bays for bikes. That works in some cities. It doesn't work in other cities. Also, what a lot of people don't realise is that in Sydney we've got all these different councils. So if you had a parking bay in the City of Sydney, but you didn't have one in Wallara and you didn't have one in Waverley, what are we doing here? And I believe I've heard from people in London where they had parking bays only to start with, but then they've introduced shared bikes as well that you can park, leave it wherever you like. So it changed the environment there as well.
Yeah. Well, a couple of really interesting issues and very timely to talk to you about them. I know you're in your first full term as a councillor. You came in the last term partway through. I always like to ask this question of reasonably new councillors. Is the role what you expected when you first put your hand up? What's your thinking now about becoming a councillor?
Can I tell you, I keep saying I'm having the time of my life at this time in my life. It's the most rewarding thing I've ever done. And if you had to ask me the one thing that I enjoy the most, it's community. And it's actually listening to community, helping community. It can be as simple as, it can be as simple as fencing a garden to make sure that it prospers so that people won't notice the fence, they'll just know that there's a beautiful garden. It can be as simple as that, but at the same time, it can be as involved as the matters that come to us at council. At the city, we have a budget that's close to $800 million. It's an enormous responsibility. The city, we're responsible for about 22% of the state economy, and we're responsible for about 6 to 7% of the federal economy. So what we do at the City of Sydney matters, and I'm really pleased to be on a council that has been led by Clover Moore, who has always put sustainability and the environment at the forefront of her council.
Well, it's a pleasure to talk to you. Thanks so much for giving us your time, and all the best with these issues you're championing there at the City of Sydney. Councillor Adam Worling.
Chris, I'm absolutely chuffed that you invited me to come along.
Thank you. Nice to meet you. All the best.
You too. Cheerio.
And that's another edition of the Local Government News Roundup in the can. This is episode number 488, recorded on the morning of Monday, the 8th of September, 2025. If you have comments or feedback, you can send me an email at lgweeklynews@gmail.com, and you can find out more about this episode, including transcripts and story links, at lgnewsroundup.com. The Roundup is brought to you by the Victorian Local Governance Association, the national broadcaster on all things local government. We're recorded in the city of Greater Geelong, Victoria, on the land of the Wadawurrung people of the Kulin Nation. We come your way every Monday, Wednesday and Friday, and you can listen on all of the major podcast platforms. Until our next edition, thanks for listening, and bye for now. The VLGA is offering a special councillor professional development intensive series. Partner with 3 other councils and save more than 50% off the minimum cost of completing all 13 modules in Year 1. The intensives will be held over 3 days. They're cost-effective, time-efficient, and promote the benefits of peer-to-peer and face-to-face learning. In addition to the intensives, and in recognition that every council has different needs, the VLGA also offers bespoke training options, both online and in person. A faculty of facilitators will work with you to customise a program that responds directly to the unique professional development needs of your council. To find out more, head to www.vlga.org.au.